On that topic, to the White House now, and Alexandria Hoff has some more details on that now. Alex, what do you have?
Well, Bill, first of all, I want to let you know, it is just so rare for a president to be able to respond to an incident like this, not with distant compassion, but up close understanding, coming from within millimeters of meeting this exact same fate 425 days ago. Now, shortly after the president confirmed Charlie Kirk's death yesterday, he ordered that all flags be flown at half staff, where they will remain until Sunday at 6 p.m. The president and Kirk enjoyed a mutually uplifting relationship after meeting in 2018. Yesterday, the president stated that no one understood or had the heart of youth in the United States better than Charlie. Here's more from last night's remarks.
Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed, because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before.
Now, President Trump's sentiment there that political motivated assassinations fail long term is an accurate one. He knows well at no time in American history has a politically motivated murder obstructed the ideals of the individual targeted. In fact, it has always sparked the opposite. Now, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. also holds a unique understanding of the impact of political violence. He was 14 when his father was assassinated. On Kirk's death, he wrote this: "Once again, a bullet has silenced the most eloquent truth teller of an era. My dear friend Charlie Kirk was our country's relentless and courageous crusader for free speech. We pray for Erica and the children. Charlie is already in paradise with the angels. We ask his prayers for our country." And then First Lady Melania Trump, she wrote something beautiful here. She said, "Charlie's children will be raised with stories instead of memories, photographs instead of laughter, and silence where their father's voice should have echoed. Charlie Kirk's life should have served as a symbolic reminder that compassionate awareness elevates family, love, and country." And so White House officials, they do confirm this morning that Vice President Vance will be traveling to Utah today, diverting from planned travel to New York. He is doing so to meet with the family of Charlie Kirk there and express his condolences in person. And consider the bold nature of that, because right now a suspect or suspects is not in custody. That manhunt continues in Utah, and Vice President Vance is heading there today to send his love. We'll send it back to you.
I am never at a loss for words on this channel. This has been one of the hardest 24 hours of my life. No sleep. I'm sure none of you slept either. There is evil in this world. It seeks to destroy. We talk about it constantly. And yet I am still shaken when you can see the true blackness of evil. Reach out and steal a father from his loving family, a devoted and honorable husband from his beautiful wife, and a generational leader, and a man who would have been president from us, a movement of freedom and America first that needed Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is an American martyr. He is a Christian martyr. We must venerate him in our own poor and inadequate ways by carrying forward his mission. Charlie Kirk died on September 10th, 2025, by an assassin's bullet, a coward who did not show his face. We're learning more right now about who and what this monster was. We'll bring you that news shortly. Charlie Kirk is survived by his wife and his two beautiful children, and by us. He died as he lived, sharing light and salt in the darkest corners of American society, bringing generational, revival-like spirit to the youth of this country, helping those in need, often quietly and humbly without even notice. I am one of those people. I've worked with Charlie for 10 years. At Turning Point USA, we have crisscrossed the nation, shared stages together, built massive events for hundreds of thousands of people. We built programs for youth and for children to be awakened into the promise that is this country. That was Charlie's life mission. I knew him well, and here's what I know. Charlie Kirk is a man who based his entire life on Jesus Christ as his bedrock. It is what he would have wished for all of us to remember him by. He said it again and again and again. I experienced that myself, not only in the forgiveness that Charlie gave me when I was unforgivable, the redemption that he provided me as a friend when I was irredeemable and indefensible when he defended me. But I also witnessed when bullets rained down on my family, Charlie's Christ-like generosity and sacrifice. Charlie sacrificed his home to me when my family's home was damaged in a horrific fire, when mass shootings and murders were occurring on my block in the worst of what the left had wrought on our nation's capital. Part of the story I've never told because I was sworn to secrecy by Charlie, but now I choose to tell it. That Charlie Kirk gave my family, with my 6-month-old infant daughter, refuge in his home here in Florida. We stayed for months as we sought to find a hospitable home. It wasn't an easy time to find a home. We were there for far too long, and Charlie never asked for anything in return. My family now is thriving, growing, and living out our American dream because of Charlie Kirk. That is the debt that I owe him. Now, extrapolate that times millions of other young people who have been physically, personally affected by Charlie and his work of speaking truth and light to a generation. The world will change forever now, a testament to who Charlie was and the power of his work and the prophetic nature of his work. Everybody who saw him in close proximity or even from a distance saw that God was working through him, that there was a hand and a calling on his life, and that calling was a calling of truth. In fact, in the moment when Charlie was cut down by evil, he was speaking truth to thousands at a Utah State University and decrying left-wing violence, decrying a spate of radicalism that has seized the left. They had lost the argument. Charlie had won. And so they've resorted to violence. As radicals and evil demons always do throughout all history. They've made him a martyr. I want to take a moment on the show, put up this image. I want to do something live here because I know that this audience is engaged and is powerful. I want to pray for Charlie and his family. Please join me. Christ Jesus, we ask for a blessing and security, comfort and healing to Erica and the 2 infant Kirk children. The full armor of God, Father. We uplift them. Bring us full hearts in order to carry on the mission of your servant, Charlie Kirk, who is now with the Lord in paradise. Amen. What have they done? What have they done? Charlie would never have wanted despair. He was the single most hopeful person I have ever known. Charlie would never have sought out political violence for violence. He was too Christ-like for this. Charlie Kirk would want us to do a single thing: to continue his mission and to continue it to the end. And that is what we will devote for the rest of the existence of this channel, this audience, this team, and this movement to doing. With absolute and total indifference, we will begin the process of dismantling, systematically, viciously, the darkness that stole Charlie from us. And we will defeat it, and we will trod upon their ashes. Charlie Kirk was killed in a political assassination. This must be framed correctly for everyone to understand. Please bear with me as I have had zero sleep. As I attempt to simply put together these thoughts, but let me lay them bare for you. Charlie Kirk was a generational talent who had some 30 million social media followers, on his way to 100 million by the next election cycle. He was a rock star on college campuses in a manner that no Brad Pitt, no movie star, no rapper could ever hope to be. Charlie Kirk was a hero to young men and women and was dynamically changing culture. Charlie Kirk had won the hearts and minds of the future generation. And most importantly, Charlie Kirk's influence was growing parabolically and exponentially. Everyone could see that. We all knew that Charlie Kirk was on his way to becoming president of the United States. And so did evil, so did his enemies. Charlie had lots of enemies. We're going to get quickly to what the FBI has revealed about the shooter for Charlie Kirk. We're going to do our very level-headed best to give you just the facts and not speculation. It is not the time for that. I'm going to do also my best to not be emotional. I've already had my breakdown. I've already had my collapse into tears, and I've already had my weeping and mourning. Now is a time for men to show resolve and to dispatch evil from the world. That is the time. And evil sought out Charlie because Charlie's influence made him a target. Charlie Kirk, inarguably one of the single most influential people on the political landscape, dare I say, this side of President Trump, the most influential in the political landscape, based merely upon his pull with the future of America. No one had that. You could argue that President Trump did not have the same pull with the future, the same connectivity generationally, just based on a generational. And I saw it. You could see it. It was electric. Anybody who spent time around Charlie saw it. And so evil sought to defame Charlie Kirk. They began with libelous and wicked articles written about him for decades now. They've called Charlie Kirk a fascist and a Nazi and a racist and an anti-Semite and every ism and ite and ish you could possibly slander him and smear him with. A Christian nationalist. Well, that's true. Charlie Kirk did die for his faith, didn't he? He gave up his life for his faith, his God, and his country. He is every bit a martyr. And as we eulogize Charlie, it is important to slowly but surely shift the gears, as President Trump did in his address to the nation last night from the Oval Office about Charlie Kirk, into dismantling the systems of evil that created the conditions for the political assassination that will define a generation. What are those systems of evil? I'm just going to touch on it one time, right now, and I'm going to say it to their faces. You wicked demon bastards on the left and in the corporate media, who even at this very moment celebrate Charlie Kirk's death, called for Charlie Kirk's death for years. You labeled him the most evil names you could possibly label him to your genetically and mentally predisposed audiences and deficient audiences who you know are mentally unstable, and you told them that Charlie Kirk was Hitler. And then, what do you expect to happen? They've done this to every member of the MAGA movement. They've labeled us all this way. Put targets on the back of everyone's family. Just a few weeks ago, the New York Times wrote an entire article about my family with the premise that they should have been in more danger when they nearly died. It wasn't enough for the New York Times that my wife and children had to flee a burning home on a gunshot-riddled neighborhood. They needed my children to die. It's never enough. When you're fighting demons, The end result will be, for them, death. That is what they seek. They seek a dispatching from this mortal world. Ladies and gentlemen, those who maligned and attacked and labeled Charlie in this manner, so recklessly, including but not limited to our own monologue yesterday, Van Jones on CNN. CNN invited me on the airwaves this morning. We said yes, and then they canceled. They would have heard about this, let me tell you. Van Jones was attacking and calling Charlie Kirk a demagogue and a racist just hours ago on CNN before the shooting. Every single one of them put a target on Charlie's back. There is an entire dark money ecosystem on the left that funds violence and that insulates and incubates violent activities and organizations, some of them off the top of the head. BLM, Antifa, an entire tree of terrorist activities funded wholesale by left-wing billionaires and dark money groups. They know exactly what they are doing. They know precisely what they are pushing. They know exactly what trends they are promoting on TikTok. And they allow it. Amazing. We post a video of like a patriotic young man and we get a strike on TikTok. Isn't that something? But then the entire feed is flooded with TikTokers celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. No penalties for that. Isn't that something? The wickedness of that platform, the evil of it. And the evil and the inhumanity of this body politic, the inhumanity of the left. We have been railing about it since our voice cracked for weeks now, whether it's the New York Times article, the killing of Irina Zastruka, or now this with Charlie. The demonizing and dehumanizing of their political enemies. The radicalizing of their base. And the painting of targets through language like he's Hitler, he's a fascist. And you tell that to somebody who's mentally and genetically disturbed, and then you're begging them to go take out Hitler. That's what they think. It must end. Know this. It's personal to me. And I will never sleep and I will never stop until this Marxist, bloodthirsty, radical, left-wing movement is ripped root and stem from our American Republic and thrown into the fire where it belongs. It's been done in other countries and it can be done here. It must be wholly and totally dismantled. And I will declare it now for everyone to hear, as I have said before, the modern Democrat Party is a terrorist organization. They incite this. I am sick to my stomach at some of the Democrat Party leaders. I will allow them to remain unnamed at this moment, who are out there saying political violence isn't the way. Yet just minutes ago, were banging their fists in a Hitlerian speech in Philadelphia with blood red lights behind them about the greatest evil that America's ever known, the MAGA movement. Saying the MAGA movement is literally Hitler, is literally fascist. I will not suffer your groveling apologies for this. And so there's our charge. Charlie Kirk was cut down. And I will, of course, not play any of the footage on this program or share it ever. But Charlie Kirk, if I wish to recall this moment in one moment, here it is. Charlie Kirk was cut down speaking the truth about left-wing violence. You can hear it in the clip. He was talking about radical transgender violence. He was talking about gangland violence. And left-wing, overall, left-wing fomented violence in this nation. And those were the last words that he spoke on this earth in that moment. A martyr in every sense of the word. And a mantle that now we carry and lift up for Charlie. No one will ever fill his chair. But we can venerate him by taking his final words about left-wing violence and putting an end to the darkness that killed Charlie Kirk. And that is our charge. This will be my lifelong mission. It will be the mission of this channel. God help us. So help us, God. Charlie Kirk, American martyr and Christian soldier, in paradise right now with his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Honored with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. President Trump at a 9/11 memorial today, eulogizing Charlie. This just happened moments ago, ladies and gentlemen. No, and I want to establish very quickly here, of course, you already know this, but few understand exactly how close President Trump was with Charlie Kirk. I have personally, at dinner, witnessed President Trump call Charlie Kirk one of his sons. He was known as a Trump child. The bond between the two of them was like a father and a son. So know this as you watch President Trump from moments ago eulogizing Charlie.
Before we begin, let me express the horror and grief so many Americans at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk have felt. Charlie was a giant of his generation, a champion of liberty, and an inspiration to millions and millions of people. Our prayers are with his wonderful wife, Eric, and his beautiful children. Fantastic people they are. We miss him greatly, yet I have no doubt that Charlie's voice and the courage he put into the hearts of countless people, especially young people, will live on. I'm pleased to announce that I will soon be awarding Charlie Kirk posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The date of the ceremony will be announced, and I can only guarantee you one thing, that we will have a very big crowd. Very, very big.
Pete Hegseth, recently renamed the Secretary of War, aptly named the Secretary of War, is ready to go to war for Charlie against the darkness and evil that took him from us and stole him from us. Pete Hegseth outside of the Pentagon, the Department of War, eulogizing his friend as well. Here he is.
The life, example, and even death of Christ follower and American patriot Charlie Kirk give me hope. Sheer courage, no matter the arena. Charlie, we love you. We know that you have heard the Lord's words. Well done, good and faithful servant. Full heart, clear eyes. Like those on 9/11, he will never be forgotten.
Yes, martyrs are never forgotten. Martyrs only grow stronger as they cement their legacies into the rest of our lives. And we venerate them, and Charlie Kirk is a martyr. What more can we do? What more can we do? More will be asked of us in the coming days. I want to prepare you for that. We went on Fox News last night to explain who Charlie was and what he fought for and why we must continue Charlie's fight. This is our calling to remember Charlie. This will be our mission to venerate him. Just very briefly here, ladies and gentlemen, our message to the world on who Charlie was and what this moment is here. The Lord Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, took home his servant, Charlie Kirk, to be with him right now in paradise. I don't know why. It is hard to bear, and it is hard to overcome. But this I do know, Laura. Charlie Kirk is a martyr. Charlie Kirk is an American martyr. Charlie Kirk is a Christian martyr. Charlie Kirk gave his life for this country and for his faith. He died as he lived, spreading salt and light to some of the darkest corners of our nation and culture, and living with a full heart. And we must rise up with that same full heart and venerate him and remember him by continuing his work. And that work would be this: to defeat the blackened evil that is overcoming our culture right now and fight it back with truth and good and light. Charlie always had a hopeful heart, and he always had a positive outlook. He is the single most honorable and noble, passionate visionary I have ever known or will ever know. There will never be another one like him. God called home his servant today, and we must all set about the work and the business of honoring Charlie by defeating that evil. God help us. This is America's turning point. The end. This has nothing to do with us. This has everything to do with Charlie's legacy. And we will be engaging fully in the cementing of that legacy and the remembrance of that legacy. President Trump from the Oval Office. Klein, you can just load it as a play-beside. Last night, this was released about 10 p.m. at night. And President Trump, in this is a 4-minute clip. And if you'll forgive me, because we have so much to cover today, and because we're going to cover what happened at the shooting and what we know so far, I just want to touch on something. We're going to start at about the 2-minute mark here. Please see the full clip. It's on all of our social media or the president's social media, where President Trump, in his first remarks about someone who he considered a son, Charlie Kirk, President Trump's, in his initial take on this, says, this is the work of our movement now, to dismantle this evil.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God. Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country.
Yes.
An assassin
Yes.
tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed, because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory. May God watch over his family. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
I want to show you one final thing before we get into what we've now learned about the shooter and what may have happened. Some horrifying news from Steven Crowder from the FBI. I want to post one final thing, as Charlie would have wanted it. We will also on this show be joined live by some of Charlie's closest friends, allies, business partners, members of Congress who owe their careers to Charlie Kirk. That is a matter of fact. Just pop this up, please. One of Charlie's final statements on social media. It's almost like he knew. If you watch some of his final news hits and some of the final things that Charlie said, it's like when the saints come marching home. It's like when you can see that there's a soul that is being called to heaven. They begin to act in ways that are profound and that defy explanation and reach people who you would never think they could reach. Like, for instance, this post, Jesus defeated death so you can live. It's one of Charlie's final posts on social media. Shared by who? Lamar Jackson. He's the quarterback for the Ravens. Chris Pratt, Hollywood actor, arguably one of the biggest and most famous names in all of Hollywood today, one of the most famous names in the entire NFL. What is that? They're sharing Charlie Kirk? It was prophetic. It was watching God's servant in the purest of prophetic flow states, reaching out into the darkest parts of culture and bringing them into the light. Hollywood? Not just campus, not just kids on campus, but like grabbing Hollywood actors and NFL champions and quarterbacks and bringing them to Christ. This is Charlie's legacy. That's how he wanted to be remembered. One of Charlie's final posts right here. A martyr. That's it. Charlie Kirk, American and Christian martyr. May we defeat the evil that stole him from us. May we rise up with a full heart. God help us. He took his servant home. These bastards. All right. President Trump has the flags at half-mast across the nation. Here's just a shot of the White House, but all over the country. Ladies and gentlemen, the New York Yankees honoring Charlie Kirk. A connection and a relationship we just didn't know about. Here's Charlie up on the...
Two children is 31 years old.
New York Yankees Park. I've known Charlie really well. I did not know that he had a connection to the Yankees. Perhaps they were just doing it because, well, and here's the status on social media, because of the power of Charlie and his audience and his legacy. So it goes with martyrs. You will see Charlie's influence grow and gain faster now, and that's the way it goes with martyrs. You are about to witness the wonders of God. But first, we must stare into the pit of evil and blackness and darkness, the evil that stole Charlie from us, okay? The FBI just had a press conference. It was live a few minutes before the show. And so we're going to watch these together, ladies and gentlemen, as the FBI, who at this moment does not have a suspect in custody. I will admit to you, I do not wish to engage in wild speculation here, but something is very, very strange about this. It is not what happened in Butler. It was a single shot, captured from many angles. As far as I know, there has been no footage released on social media of the shooter, but the FBI does have footage. And they have information. So we're going to go from the FBI first. Then we're going to cover what Steven Crowder released this morning. And then we're going to cover what some experts are saying about whether this was a professional hit job, potentially something that is far beyond what we've seen in this country in a very long time, which is a state actor assassination. That's not my speculation. That's someone with direct access to the FBI, and we'll play you all of the clips. It's John Solomon. But let's begin with the FBI this morning. The shooter was on the roof. The shooter was on the roof. Let's go. You can see here. You can see here. This is all that we have thus far. Small blips of a very dark shooter on the roof, clearly wearing black. The FBI has images and has tracked the movements of this assassin. Go.
Through all that work last night, we were able to make a few breakthroughs. We were able to track the movements of the shooter. Starting at 11:52 a.m., this subject arrived on campus, shortly away from campus. We have tracked his movements onto the campus, through the stairwells, up to the roof, across the roof to a shooting location. After the shooting, we were able to track his movements as he moved to the other side of the building, jumped off of the building, and fled off of the campus and into a neighborhood. Our investigators have worked through those neighborhoods, contacting anybody they can with doorbell cameras, witnesses, and have thoroughly worked through those communities, trying to identify any leads. We do have good video footage of this individual. We are not going to release that at this time. We are working through some technologies and some ways to identify this individual. If we are unsuccessful, we will reach out to you as the media and we will push that publicly to help us identify them. But we are confident in our abilities right now, and we would like to move forward in a manner that keeps everyone safe and moves this process appropriately.
The FBI has palm prints, fingerprints, and DNA evidence of the shooter. What you just heard there is that they have the shooter crisply and clearly on multiple angles of security tape, and they are now engaged in a massive manhunt. I'm going to abstain from wild speculation on this. But the fact that no one is in custody right now enrages me. there's something very dark going on here. We have further evidence. We're going to tell you where it's from and who it's from. That this may be potentially a professional hit job. This may potentially be a political hit job from exactly where you'd expect. Let's continue on with the evidence we have now. The FBI saying that we have palm prints and DNA and fingerprints. Go.
Following yesterday's tragic shooting of Charlie Kirk, FBI agents have been working around the clock in coordination with our law enforcement partners. We are and will continue to work nonstop until we find the person that has committed this heinous crime and find out why they did it. This morning I can tell you that we have recovered what we believe is the weapon that was used in yesterday's shooting. It is a high-powered bolt-action rifle. That rifle was recovered in a wooded area where the shooter had fled. So the FBI laboratory will be analyzing this weapon. Investigators have also collected footwear impression, a palm print, and forearm imprints for analysis. Now, I understand there are a lot of questions about motive. I assure you that all leads, tips are being fully investigated. As of this morning, we have received more than 130 tips. We thank the community for that.
This is fundamentally different than what happened in Butler. I went to Butler. I'm not trying to brag. We just work our asses off. We laid down in the bloodstains in Butler where the assassin went on a suicide mission to try and kill Trump. Let me explain the differences, since we were personally there. And we made an entire documentary about it, and we've done everything we can to try and explain these differences. In Butler, Matthew Thomas Crooks, the assassin, was a gangly, bungling, sloppy jackass. He ran into constantly law enforcement, made himself a clear target, was being trailed by police with his clunky backpack. How he didn't get caught? Well, that's a mystery for the ages. He lumbered across a rooftop, being filmed from below, causing a ruckus, making a scene, getting captured on sniper scopes from the police. Again, it is a generational mystery as to how this individual was not taken out sooner. You can clearly see him lumbering around with a rifle. And then when he gets the piss up to finally pull the trigger, he sprays bullets, killing members of the MAGA community, beautiful fathers and patriots, Corey Compertor, who we remember and will always remember forever. And he just fires wildly into the crowd. He strikes 3 other individuals in the crowd, along with President Trump in the head. Thank God, not a fatal headshot, but nonetheless striking President Trump in the head. That's what happened in Butler. There was no escape plan for Matthew Thomas Crooks. He got taken out by a single shot. You can hear it and see it in the footage clearly, a single shot. Matthew Thomas Crooks was gone. I saw the blood stain myself, traveling all the way down the building for 15 feet and then 20 feet down to the ground. Done in a single shot. A single professional shot took him out. What happened to Charlie yesterday was the opposite. What happened to Charlie yesterday, based on snipers who I spoke with and military experts, professional security and tactical teams with military training and special forces training, that sounded like a professional shot. That was a professional shot. What happened to Charlie yesterday was the opposite of what happened in Butler. While some things on paper are the same, the actual shooting itself was the reverse. Someone trained. someone was prepared. Somebody plotted for weeks, days, years. Other mysterious things happened. Like, for instance, when the shot rang out, there were individuals on the ground who caused distractions for law enforcement. The shooter, of course, has not been apprehended and is gone. Thankfully, as we just heard, we have the weapon, we have DNA, we have video footage that will all be helpful. But what happens next? Well, it is the biggest manhunt of your life or mine. But the fact that this individual had an escape plan, was able to pull this off and then leave undetected. Charlie Kirk travels with a phalanx of security guards. There's no less than 10 highly trained military agents with him. They're not actively in the military. Many of them have served and trained at the highest levels. Charlie Kirk has an excellent security team, one of the single best in the business. Charlie Kirk, and it is often his events are staffed with law enforcement, as this event was. So to be able to evade all of that, to be able to get a single shot, not one shot, this shooter was not going for mass casualty, was not going for terrorism. A single shot, it was one, according to all available evidence, a single round from 200 or more yards, without anybody accurately capturing or noticing the shooter. And then the shooter disappears and is currently still unapprehended. Yes, there is reason for people to believe that this is a professional hit job. John Solomon is an excellent reporter, and Steven Crowder has some leaked information. I want to talk about both. I want to begin by saying that I'm very, very close with Charlie and his team, and here is the thing that here's what I wish to relay to you from them. That there is some considerable evidence that there were state actors involved here. That's it. I don't want to go any further than that. I can't go any further than that. That is what I've been told. It is not like this is exclusive to me necessarily. John Solomon said it last night on Sean Hannity's show. Here we go.
And we all lost, no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, we lost something important in America today. But the case goes on. The investigation goes on. There's a lot of piecing of evidence together. We don't have a shooter tonight. We have a couple leads, a couple people that were released that probably aren't the shooter. There's a couple hot leads. There's a little bit of foreign intelligence. And I think over the next couple of days, we will learn a lot more. And hopefully we will bring to justice the evil person who did what they did to Charlie today.
Yeah, I hope so. I am hearing that they do have a couple of people of interest. That's the latest I heard from
That's correct.
Law enforcement. You're hearing the same thing.
Yeah.
All right. Final thing from Steven Crowder, and then we will move over to Congresswoman Luna, who will be joining us, who has worked hand in glove with Charlie for the better part of a decade, and who, well, quite frankly, will be able to speak for herself on her relationship with Charlie. This from Steven Crowder. This is a leak from the ATF. I put this up because it is something that seems to have been corroborated, certainly in part, by the FBI's own reporting from this morning. Let's go ahead and read. Approximately 12:24 p.m., conservative political influencer Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at Utah Valley University. Kirk was speaking at the university as part of the American Comeback Tour. Again, this is from the DOJ.gov full report. And they talk about what they found. Let's jump to what they found. Agents responded immediately. The suspect fired one shot from an elevated position on a rooftop adjacent to the building. On the campus surveillance video shows the suspect jumping off and fleeing the area on foot. ATF and other law enforcement located an older model imported Mauser 30-06 caliber bolt action rifle wrapped in a towel in a wooded area near the campus. The location of the firearm appears to match the suspect's route of travel. Spent cartridge was still chambered, in addition to 3 unspent rounds in the top of the magazine. All cartridges were engraved with wording on them expressing transgender and anti-fascist ideology. An emergency trace has been submitted to the ATF, working on leads generated by the trace. The firearm and ammunition have been taken by the FBI and DNA analysis for fingerprint impressions. Upon completion of the forensics, the firearms will be disabled for additional importer information. Multiple people of interest have been contacted and detained because eyewitness testimony and review of video footage. Primary suspect has yet to be identified. ATF is assisting in the investigation. Multiple other federal, state, and local law enforcement. We just witnessed in Minneapolis a transgender shooter who massacred children praying in church. I want to proceed with caution here because we have not heard this directly from the FBI. I'm not questioning Stephen's reporting at all. In fact, the vast majority of this seems to be totally corroborated, with the exception of the engravings of transgender and anti-fascist iconography on the bullets themselves. But if that is in fact the case, then you will be able to see precisely what radicalized terrorist network stole Charlie Kirk from us. You will be able to see with your full eyes what movement, what degenerate and dangerous terrorist movement is here to attack Americans who wish to live peaceful lives and save this country. You'll be able to see full demonic evil on display, and we'll be able to understand exactly what we're up against. Ladies and gentlemen, somebody who fights the good fight every single day, here to comment, is an individual member of Congress. Her name is Luna. She knows Charlie Kirk about as good as anyone. Got her career started with Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA in activism. And I don't think that I'm speaking too much for her by saying her, as with me, owe our careers to Charlie. Joining us live now, Luna, Congresswoman. I want to begin, Congresswoman, by asking for your thoughts on Charlie before we get to the details of what we are learning now about the shooter. But I want to give you a moment to simply eulogize and remember Charlie, as you have such a prestigious and beautiful history with him and Turning Point USA. The floor is yours.
So I remember actually being at the Turning Point headquarters when you first were brought on, Benny, and being there, and Charlie was walking you through the headquarters. And so I guess for people in context, we both knew Charlie very well. I can tell you that my whole career I owe it to Charlie. He actually convinced me in about a 30-minute conversation when I was stationed at the Portland Air National Guard to not go to medical school and to get involved with Turning Point USA as their National Hispanic Outreach Director. At the time, I had started tours with Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum, and we actually were some of the first political influencers to use social media. Not just that, I went to those very same college debate and campuses, and I remember sitting there next to him, and I come from the military, so this is all very new to me. And I remember him debating someone in an ice cap, and this woman came over, but he was doing it not to provoke anger, but to actually provoke the conversation. And I remember asking him, like, do you want me to jump in on the conversation? He's like, no, I got it, watch this, and he was kind of showing me really the fundamental basics of debate. So I tell people that I actually cut my teeth in politics by doing those campus tours, because what better opportunity do you have to really engage in the debate and pushing forward your ideas than actually going to these college campuses and just getting random questions from college kids about anything to provoke that conversation. When I decided to then run for office, my own party worked against me. And Charlie was one of the few people that came out to endorse me and actually provided a massive buffer and really was kind of a trust icon within the conservative grassroots movement, to where people were like, well, if Charlie Kirk's going to endorse her, then we know where she's aligned at. And then I ultimately became one of the first alumni from Turning Point to actually make it to public office. But it didn't just stop there. I was on the campaign trail with him and JD Vance in Arizona when those nasty attacks were coming out on JD in regards to the cat comments. And Charlie was there walking me through kind of the debate backstage. And I remember he just jumped right into it. And then again, I saw him most recently when we were in Tampa. But, you know, I've known Charlie even when Charlie was just kind of basically a young adult in suits and still wearing sneakers. And he blossomed into a really incredible young man. And it's a shame that he was taken in the way that he was, but I don't want people to remember those awful videos. I think it's important to reflect on his words and what he stated. And I think you've really embraced that, Benny, and that, you know, have kids, get married, have a family, that's true success, but then also being able to stand up the next generation of young conservatives. And what I will tell you, and what happened yesterday, that was an assault. It was an assault on every single conservative. It was an assault on people that believed in the whole concept of nationalism. It was an assault on people that have refused to bow to fascist leftists. It was an assault on every single Christian in this country because he truly embraced and lived the values that he taught on these campuses. And so when people ask, you know, what happened yesterday on the floor, we asked for a moment of prayer.
Yes.
And these people started booing, and I'm not going to sit there. I had to watch my friend bleed out on camera on X because people were posting this just awful shit on the internet. And these people, instead of just issuing statements or at least giving them like just common decency of allowing prayer, they start to boo. So yes, I called them out for it. And yes, I sat there and I basically said, your rhetoric is what caused this. And there was an exchange that took place. But why is it just one voice backing Lauren Boebert calling for prayer? Why is every single person not condemning that? You know, this is our House of Representatives. If we have in God we trust on the House floor and we're not allowed to pray, well, maybe we should just take it off the damn mantle, because that's really what we're allowing these people to do, is to control the narrative and conversation. But, you know, I will say that there have been some Democrats that have at least had the common decency to condemn this and issue statements. And I think that the fact that the Democrat presidents, the more better known ones, have issued statements should just go to the magnitude of what this actually represents fundamentally. And so the call to action is get involved. Don't let this just go away. I would tell any college campus or college student listening to this, you can join Turning Point. You can open up chapters. We can't let the debates stop here. But based on what I just saw come out, and obviously we're still waiting for final confirmation from the ATF and the FBI, I think, and I still hold to my opinions, and I do not make any apologies for those opinions, that this was responsible because of the leftist rhetoric. And we have a massive problem here. And we're not going away. We're not the one killing people. Leftists are, and I still hold to those truths.
We have the clip of Democrats, but it's very hard on C-SPAN to see exactly what's going on. Please describe what's happening here, Congresswoman, since you were there in the well of the House.
Yeah, so do you want to, I mean, the audio right now is, as soon as Lauren Boebert stands up, I think you can kind of see her in the video. She actually makes the motion to do a prayer on the House floor to honor Charlie. And at this point in time, it wasn't publicly announced yet that he had passed away. And so we're trying to pray to see if anything could be done and a miracle could happen. And unfortunately, that was not God's plan for Charlie. But at this point in time, as soon as the motion is made, they start booing. They start yelling. They broke order. They broke quorum. And I wasn't going to stand there and let that type of disrespect and disgusting behavior happen. And so I said what I said. And the reason why you can't hear me is because I wasn't near the mic. I was standing in the back. And I pushed back. And that's what every single person in this country needs to do. I had reporters in my face saying, oh, well, do you think you're contributing to the rhetoric and dividing this country? No, because when something is wrong, when you see wrong behavior, you call it out. You don't let it slide. You don't say, okay, well, it's, you know, we're just going to make nice and move on from this. When you have people calling us terrorists, when you have people saying that we're fascists and going to remove the rights from women and from trans people and this, that, and the other, because of our basic beliefs in the Constitution in this country being great, those are the people that are causing this. When you have them refusing to condemn violence, when you have their supporters celebrate the assassination attempts on the president and celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, yes, you call it out. You don't back down from that. And so am I angry? Yes, but I'm deeply saddened. I think the word that I can use to describe it is heartbreak for a loss of a friend, but more for his kids, because he wasn't just a person on the internet that was, as the left likes to call him, a racist nationalist psychopath, the way that they described him. He was a father. I've met his parents. He was a son. He was a great husband to Erica. And more importantly, he was a figure within our movement that I think, as a result of this, is going to go down historically on the same pedestal as Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yes, I completely agree. He'll go down as a civil rights martyr. That is what Charlie Kirk is. He is a civil rights hero and martyr. We have a right to ride buses in this nation without being slaughtered. We have a right to speak on a college campus
without being shot,
getting a bullet. And we have a right to run for president, every American does, without getting shot in the head, as our president has. Congresswoman, all of the violence, and I won't allow it. I won't allow them to be like, oh, this or that. Shut up. All of the violence comes from the radical left. What are we going to do about it?
I think that this cut deep in a way that a lot of people can't understand because of the personal relationships that Charlie had behind the scenes. A lot of people are unaware that some of us who've been in this movement for a while all know each other and all have good rapport. There are going to be examples made of people, and everyone who has been responsible for coordinating this, you basically just took on the entire U.S. government, and I'm telling you right now, you're going to lose.
Can you please unpack that for me, Congresswoman?
Well, you can see right now that there have been many statements that are alluding to no stone unturned, anyone responsible for coordinating. I would even argue that the fact that people are celebrating this and you know, we've been receiving calls. I know that there's been an uptick in threats against members in government as a result of this. Those people, maybe before they could get off with a slap on the wrist, but there's going to be punitive action. I know people are getting fired currently, but I think criminal charges. I'm in the process of writing legislation to update the civil rights codes to ensure that if you are committing an act, hate crime as a result of someone's political ideologies and affiliations, that it should be the same charges as a civil rights violation. It's crazy that that's not even in there currently, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that. And so there's a lot of action for this. I know people say, well, we don't, want just a strongly worded letter. And yes. I think that there's going to be punitive action. And I hope that that person that did this to Charlie gets the electric chair.
If you would forgive me, Congresswoman, because we both lived through it, but I witnessed one of your colleagues and a leader of the Republican Party, Steve Scalise, take a bullet. Nobody seems to remember this, from a deranged leftist. I was one of the only people that went through this leftist social media account. He had a Facebook that was still public before they wiped it. And it was just Rachel Maddow clips. It was just MSNBC clips. And at the time, I was screaming into the wilderness, we can't sing Kumbaya with these people. You can't link arms. Paul Ryan immediately ran to the floor to sit on Nancy Pelosi's lap. And to talk about what a good dog he is. What a good boy he is.
Yesterday, CNN took the clip of what you just showed on your show, and they clipped it to where I was yelling back at the Democrats for doing what they did. And they made it seem like I was inciting some form of blame game, not even calling out the fact that the Democrats were literally booing a prayer. And I'm not going to just adhere to what the typical status quo was on that. And so I don't make regrets for my statements. I meant every single word of it. And I hope that it upset them, because what they've done is grossly irresponsible. You literally have clips of Maxine Waters calling for violence to be used against Republicans and conservatives. You literally have most well-known members of the Democrat Party using their platforms saying, we're at war, this is it. All of that, that has consequences, but more importantly, they're radicalizing their followers, of which I think another discussion needs to be had here after all the facts come out. So I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but I think that there definitely needs to be an accountability factor for in the event that prescriptions were prescribed. Why the hell are doctors still allowed to prescribe stuff that's making people literally nuts?
Yes, that's right. And This is, again, like perhaps the turning point that Charlie has been talking about his entire life. He told you the story, and I know he's told me the story, that God gave him the vision for Turning Point, and the words and even the name. And perhaps this is the turning point, that we can no longer accept a demonic and bloodthirsty half of the nation that doesn't even grieve when this father is slain and cut down and his children and his wife are widowed. They celebrate. Well, I don't want to make peace with that, Congresswoman. I don't want to coddle that, and I certainly don't want that to become a political movement.
Well,
because then that is
Benny,
that is what they will do to all of us.
Benny, in the Bible it says you don't make peace with evil, you destroy it.
Yes, that's right. So this is breaking news, and I please bear with us as this has just been published just seconds ago from the Wall Street Journal. We covered Stephen Crowder's reporting on this, but now the Wall Street Journal has confirmed that there was ammo engraved with transgender and anti-fascist messaging on the actual bullet shells inside of the cartridges that was recovered in this firearm. There's still much to be learned, obviously. Clearly, we're trying to do our best to cover what's happening with the FBI. This has now been confirmed by multiple sources that it was a political, that this, I mean, it of course points directly to a assassin with a political message, a left-wing political message.
I stand by my statements and calling every single Democrat out on the floor for the rhetoric that they've used that got our friend killed.
What should happen next to the political left? There is so much dark money that is pumped into terrorist groups. We've tracked it on this program.
I have legislation that would currently ban Antifa or categorize Antifa as a terrorist organization. From what I know, some of these left-wing groups, I don't even want to say blue dog Democrats, because they're actually in the process of poaching these seats and getting out these blue dogs that typically have the same values. I would argue that, you know, a very moderate Republican would. Again, it's not every Democrat, right? We have people that are leaving the Democrat Party in droves, but this is specifically a leftist ideology that has been calling people like us Nazis, fascists, everything else in between. They reject Christianity. They reject the concept of nationalism. They think that if you want a family, that you're too trad and somehow anti-feminist. They oppress people, use minorities for their own causes to fundraise, and it's a hate movement. Yes. And so there has to be examples made. There needs to be massive punitive action against these people. There needs to be capital punishment, zero tolerance for people that are committing acts of murder and violence against people based on their civil liberties, the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But more importantly, people need to get involved, and you can't be quiet. You can't just stick on the internet and comment and say, this sucks. What is Congress going to do about it? No. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to get involved?
Finally, Congresswoman, and thank you for your generous time this morning. And I want to stop. You know, I'm just going to drop it. I've known you for years, and we've both known Charlie for years. Yeah. And there's a time to weep, and there's a time to mourn, and then there's a time to actually do work for our friend. And
well, Benny, I know he was really excited when he brought you on, and I know that you've been trying to cover and stuff. But I also know that you and your wife were pretty close to him and Erica, so. Obviously, we're there with you, but just know that when he was able to bring you on, he was really excited because of the amount of stuff that you brought in regards to social media and your writing skills as well. And so actually, I'm there for that.
It's someone else's time to cry and mourn, and it's not mine. It is my time to fight to ensure that this never happens again. I will leave you with the final word, which is, if I'm going to set you up by asking, does Congress have the balls to actually do something this time? And Congresswoman, what would you want them to do? You are a very, very, very powerful voice here, and you're going to gain a lot of power given your proximity to Charlie in this circumstance. What do you demand of Republicans now?
We have a piece of legislation that we're working on that I think we will be able to get co-sponsors and actually bring to the floor, but only if you guys are able to join that cause for accountability. And it is going to be going after the root cause of this, which Charlie talked about all the time, which was the black box warnings on these medications. I'm not going to say much more than that, but the DOJ, we have a great president and vice president who are going to ensure that punitive action is brought against these organizations, but there needs to also be accountability. And again, when you have one side killing or murdering and another side not, I think that it pretty much draws a line in the sand. So it's not going away anytime soon. I do believe that we're reliving the 60s. We had JFK assassinated. Trump had 2-time assassination attempts. MLK was murdered. Charlie Kirk was murdered. And then unfortunately, RFK was murdered. And so I hope that there's not another, but the tides have shifted. People are sick of this, but you need to get involved. You can't just stick on the internet. You have to take action. And that's what the call is today, is take action, get involved, join Turning Point. Don't let the debate go away.
We are adding, and it has been added, the Turning Point USA sign-up link in the description. Good. You can get into the description right now of this live stream, and you can sign up for Turning Point. It's right here on your screen. It will be in every single link. Ladies and gentlemen,
thank you, Benny.
Congresswoman Luna. Godspeed. And we are thankful for her clarity in this moment. The electric chair. And then full punitive damages for all of those who are part of left-wing radical terrorist organizations, and the classification of left-wing radical terrorist organizations like Antifa as a terrorist organization, and then the full-throated prosecution of those who are engaging in online terrorism against our nation and our peaceful movement. Last night, Jesse Waters had a guest on that chilled me to the bone. It is a former FBI special agent. His name is Stuart Kaplan. He's done a lot of anti-terrorism work. And Stuart Kaplan announced to the world that given his 30-year pedigree with the FBI and studying terrorist organizations, that this was a professional hit job. This was what was broadcast on Jesse Waters' show last night. Mix that together with what we now know and has been reported, and we'll read through this Wall Street Journal article when we're back, that this was connected to left-wing political transgender and also far-left radicalized fascist violence. Here's the FBI expert. Go.
See, I think this assassination, different than the assassinated attempt back in Butler, Pennsylvania, was a very well-planned, very well-orchestrated plot that was put in motion days before. And this individual had a plan of escape to elude detection of being up on a rooftop, and also being able to evade and elude law enforcement after that shot was taken. When you take a look at what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, Crooks came onto the venue. He left the venue. He came back. He was questioned. I mean, it was really an amateur scenario. This assassination of Charlie Kirk, to me, is indicative of a professional hit. And I'm not so sure that we are going to quickly be able to apprehend this individual without some luck, hopefully.
When you say professional hit, what do you mean by that exactly? Do you mean one shot, one kill, escape already planned and at large? It looks clean, yes, but could this be done by anybody with any sort of basic training?
Well, when you take a look at the video and you take a look at the venue and the spectators and how close they are to Charlie Kirk, and then you have that kind of like umbrella over him, that kind of tent, you have to know that this shooter had to be perched in a position with respect to being able to lay his sights perfectly, basically, a headshot. And the shot that was taken to immediately incapacitate Charlie Kirk. And so this was not some amateur who just, got up on a rooftop because it was, what I consider spontaneous combustion. He got up this morning and decided he was going to do something crazy. This seems the earmark of a professional that got up onto this rooftop well in advance of the venue being occupied by the spectators. He was clearly undetected. There was no indication that anybody saw him up on this rooftop. Obviously, after that one single shot was taken, he was able to basically very quietly and systematically elude any further detection and escape. There's been no indication that there's been a vehicle identified or any mode of how he actually escaped the venue. And so to me, this is someone who had some experience, some level of sophistication to have mapped out exactly how this was going to go down.
Again, I do not want to engage in wild speculation. I'm going to believe things when I believe them, when I see somebody perp-walked in handcuffs. There are too many forces that wanted Charlie dead to enumerate. Charlie stood as a beacon of light to the world. And so I believe that it is preliminary and early to sit there and blame one thing or another, given that it is September 11th today. We are not going to rush to conclusions. And also we understand that there are ops that are run and constant on us, and we will not be falling for them. We are going to stick to the hard and brutal truth. This is the drone footage provided by our friend Taylor Hansen of this location. Let's go big here, please. You can see here the numerous rooftops that were available for this assassin. And then you can see the location of Charlie's tent right there. Again, ladies and gentlemen, the State University of Utah here inside of a quad that, again, avails itself to a pretty enormous number of plateaued rooftops. Stephen Miller, ladies and gentlemen, writing a moment ago on social media. There is an ideology that has steadily been growing in this country, which hates everything that is good, righteous, and beautiful, and it celebrates everything that is warped, twisted, and depraved. It is an ideology at war with family and nature. It is envious and malicious and soulless, and it is an ideology that looks upon the perfect family with bitter rage while embracing the serial criminal with tender warmth. Its adherents organize constantly to tear down and destroy every mark of grace and beauty while lifting up everything that is monstrous and foul. It is an ideology that leads away, always and inevitably and willfully, to violence. Violence against those who uphold order, who uphold faith, who uphold family, and who uphold all that is noble and virtuous in this world. It is an ideology whose one unifying thread is the insatiable thirst for destruction. We see the workings of this ideology in every posting online cheering the evil assassination that cruelly robbed this nation of one of its greatest men, Charlie Kirk. Postings from those in positions of institutional authority, educators, healthcare workers, therapists, government employees, reveling in the vile and sinister with the most chilling glee. The fate of millions depend upon the defeat of this wicked ideology. The fate of our children, our society, and our civilization hinges upon it. We now devote ourselves with love and unyielding determination to finish the indispensable work for which Charlie Kirk bravely devoted his life and gave his last full measure of devotion. From the desk and pen of Stephen Miller. That's how I feel. Is that how you feel? Few knew Charlie better than our next guest. Tyler Boyer is a man who knew Charlie in the very infancy of his career. I think you could well argue that he is Charlie's oldest friend. A man who knows more about Charlie and has built more with Charlie than any man alive. He co-founded Turning Point USA with Charlie and operated as its chief organizer. Tyler has lost a lifelong friend. But more than that, Tyler and those of us who knew Charlie have lost a part of our soul today. How do we get it back? How do we honor Charlie? Joining us now, Tyler Boyer, to answer that question. Tyler, welcome to the program. I know that you have had an excruciating 24 hours and have not slept, but I appreciate you joining to eulogize Charlie and then to talk about the path forward. I have given the audience a little background on you, but I think it is fair to say that no one knows Charlie better or has done more work with Charlie walking the face of the earth today than you, Tyler. And so the floor is yours.
Oh, thanks, Benny. And I think it's appropriate to start. I mean, I the last 24 hours I've been going through, old texts and memories and everything else. And I think it's appropriate to start where the memory is of Charlie falling in love with Benny Johnson. I don't know if you remember those early days, but Charlie was obsessed with the energy of Benny Johnson. And it was the thing that separates out Charlie from so many others that we know in politics is he obviously believes in this republic, but he believes in people. And sorry, I had myself put back together here, but I just remember those very early days, and just very much in similar Charlie form, and I've had the pleasure of having so many of these experiences because I was with Charlie in those early days of where, I kind of compare it to, the 12 apostles of disciples. Is Charlie had such a positive outlook on the movement that when he came across somebody that had that similar positive outlook on the movement, he would motivate you to want to fall in line, to follow him and get behind him and do the work. And I know you feel that way, Benny, because you were one of those people. And it's changed the trajectory of alternative media. It's changed the trajectory of how information is disseminated within the world, not just state by state and across the country, but the world. And it's changed how politics operates and functions. And it's because, that loyalty is a two-way road. And again, I know, I speak on behalf of what I know, which is that he was very proud of the people who wanted to do the work for the right reasons. And that's what makes me the most proud to be your friend, and for you to be one of those first people that we called yesterday as everything was happening. It's almost unbelievable, but I think he would want more than anything. That's why I'm here. I normally I don't like doing any media. I usually kind of decline whenever we talk about coming on the shows, but I think today, to honor Charlie and who Charlie is, it's important for people to understand and know that this thing that's been built, the work that he believed in so much, is it's bigger than so many of us, and it really was everybody coming together. So I just wanted to say that, at least start with that.
So many people have stories, Tyler, about Charlie, but you have the oldest stories about Charlie. You were the first one who believed with Charlie in this vision of Turning Point USA. You co-founded Turning Point USA with him when you didn't have a single dollar in the bank account, when you had nothing but the backseat of a car to sleep in and drive around in. And I have heard this story, but I don't think many others have. And so I want to just give you an opportunity to perhaps start at the beginning, because everybody knows Charlie Kirk as the person with 30 million followers, the man who may well was on his way to becoming president one day. Let's just say it. And we all knew it. And nobody knows where he came from. Very few, except for you.
Well, Charlie founded Turning Point USA. I came in because I realized, that this was something that needed to happen, and enough people had become aware of him and what he was doing in Chicago. I'm an Arizona boy. He's a Chicago boy, and became aware of what he was doing. They were like, "Hey, you need to go talk to this kid. He's saying a lot of the same things that you're saying," and he wanted to build something and create jobs and an alternative ecosystem for young conservatives, because the old way, this, living on Capitol Hill for as long as you did, was there was one pathway, and it was young people got involved with college Republicans like you and me. You and I are the same age. It's actually really funny. Not a lot of people know this, but Benny and I are the same age. Jack Posobiec is the same age. Andrew Colvette is the same. We're all the same age, and we're all about 8 years older than Charlie. And so and we're all in the similar place where we all have a family and kids, and it was just in the early days, being older than Charlie by almost 8 years. It was an interesting dynamic because he's the boss, but he's 8 years younger than you, and that doesn't really matter when you're 50 or 60 years old, but when he's 19 or 20 when you meet him, and you're in mid-life. Most people wouldn't take that job. Most people would look at that and go, "That's kind of weird." But when I met Charlie, the thing that was so obvious was how brilliant of a person he is, but his heart wanted to do the things that the country needed, that the movement needed. And so, like I was saying, most people don't realize this, but back in the day, you kind of got involved with college Republicans. If you were guys like our age or older, you got involved with college Republicans, and you went and got a job on Capitol Hill, and you became like this creature of the lobbyist corps, or the Bush McCain party that is basically evaporated, and you just kind of turn into a creature of like the establishment. And if you wanted to do something else, there was nothing. Like, you could kind of do alternative media, but it didn't really exist. And you could do your own thing, but you could never really make enough money to like basically feed a family. And the thing that is unique about Turning Point USA and the vision that Charlie originally had was we have to create an alternate ecosystem for conservative principles to survive, to be able to fight. And we've now employed thousands of people. We've recruited millions of activists at this point, both online and in person. But the in person is what people don't see. They know Charlie for online, but the online stuff that came from all the stuff that you see is thousands and thousands of good people who are working diligently every day and getting zero credit for it in most cases, who are carrying the exact ideology that Charlie was professing. And we're not talking about the big ideological splits that obviously we all agree on. We're talking about the little stuff, the fight for the the heart of the Republican Party, the fight for the heart of the conservative movement, transitioning people away from the give up, roll over mentality. I call it the Paul Ryan method, which is like just give up in the middle. But to fighting for something that you believe in, and becoming again that hard-nosed conservative that stands for something, that becomes a good husband and father, and that leads the character development that's necessary for culture to change, and therefore politics to change downstream. As we know, Andrew Breitbart left that legacy, and Charlie loved Andrew Breitbart for that. So I mean I don't, for me, it's, as we look at where the next steps are, is getting involved and doing the things programmatically that Charlie built, that we set up. That's the pathway forward. That's the revolutionary way, which is doing things that are really kind of anti-revolutionary, which is anti-violent. Which is he is a martyr, having been assassinated. He would want more than anything is for people to channel their anger into proper activism. That's the thing that's going to change the country.
Given the fact that, other than Charlie's parents, you are probably his oldest friend, an ally, colleague, can you share with us, Tyler, a story that no one knows about Charlie?
Oh man, there's so many. I've shared this a few times, but I don't think like widespread. But early in my career, and meeting Charlie and joining Charlie, so I kind of abandoned my life and my job to take a extraordinarily low paying job, and luckily my family was in the position where we could do that. But to come on and help build Turning Point, essentially. Right after that, it was not too long after that, I had become county chairman of Maricopa County. And so I was in my mid-20s, and I had become the chairman. And remember, Turning Point was tiny at that point. Nobody really knew what Turning Point was. Nobody really knew who Charlie was. I mean, I helped Charlie. I mean, you'll appreciate this, right? But I helped Charlie start his Instagram account. I had to like convince him to start social. He was really good on Twitter, and he's really proud of his Twitter following as a local Chicago boy, because the news really leaned into him. But it was like, hey, we got to get you on Instagram. We got to start doing those things. And people really can't imagine that, because they view him as the enigma that he is online, similar to you. But in those early days, I was the county chairman of the largest Republican held county, and John McCain was still alive, and this was before Trump had entered the scene, and the establishment hated me, and they wanted to take me out every which way they could, and they did some nasty things and some horrible things, and to me as a young guy, and I wanted to quit every day. I didn't want to do that. I kind of got over my skis with that, and he was the person I talked to every day, and he said, you have to stand, and you have to fight these people. You cannot give them a win. You have to. We will support you. We will protect you. We will do everything. And again, remember at that point, Turning Point was tiny. We didn't raise that much money, but the fact that he was the voice that was, you've got to do this. And it culminated when we hosted the first Trump rally. So not many people know this, but I was sitting at lunch with him and one of his dearest, friends and father figures in his life, Mike Miller. And we hosted the very first. I got a phone call and it was Corey Lewandowski. We're eating lunch, and Corey Lewandowski says, "Hey, you know, I'm the campaign manager for Donald Trump." I was like, "Okay, cool. We were wanting to do a little event in Arizona. Do you think you can get like 100 people in a room so that Donald Trump can talk about opposing illegal immigration?" I was like, I turned to Charlie. He's sitting right next to me at lunch, and I turned to Charlie. I'm like, "We got to, I got to do this. We got to do this." And he immediately was like, "Yes, absolutely." And I told Corey at the time, like, "Oh, I can get a lot more than 100 people. We operate this organization, Turning Point, and I've got a lot of young people that we work with." And he's like, "Oh, okay, okay." I'm sure he didn't believe me. And that thing turned into what became the first Trump rally. We had thousands of people who showed up, and it was Charlie's encouragement that he never took credit for. He never got credit for, but I never would have done that and said those things. I never would have fought, these bad people who were trying to take me out all the time. I would never have agreed to do this. And wouldn't you know it, that's how he met his wife, was that Erica was a former Miss Arizona, contacted me because we were hosting this large event that Charlie encouraged, and she shows up, and then that's how he ends up meeting her, was through all of that. But the days after that, this is the story. This is getting to the part of the story that nobody knows. CNN was all over me, and they wanted to hit Trump right after this rally because it was so big and it took over kind of this hemisphere. Because if you remember, Donald Trump kind of attacked John McCain. I won't bring it up. It's beside the point. But of course, the liberal media ran with it. CNN ran with it. And I was with Charlie in Chicago. I'd actually flown back to Chicago because we hosted our first Young Women's Leadership Summit ever. And we were doing that in Chicago at a tiny little golf resort that was old, and it wasn't, super nice. And it was, we had like a couple, I think we had like 15 girls for our first Young Women's Leadership Summit, 20 girls. And now it's huge, as you know. Kate's there and speaks at that all the time and everything else. But CNN wanted me to come live in studio to talk about Donald Trump and why Donald Trump, we should defend Donald Trump, because I just hosted this event. And Charlie woke up with me, I think it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and we took an hour and a half car into the city because that's how far out we were. And he was right there with me. And so I go on camera, and again, everyone knows Charlie for him being the front face on TV all the time, on Fox all the time, everything else. No one knows that this was who he was he wasn't like, "Oh, let me go on camera," or "Tell him I'll go speak." He sat there next to me off camera in this tiny little coat closet while I'm on camera, scared out of my wits because it's my first time I'd ever done any kind of media whatsoever after hosting this big event. I was scared, like literally scared of all these people. And he was there going like, "Oh, I've done a few hits. Let me show you how to do it." And that's who he was all the time, was constantly just leading. And he did that not just with me, he did that with thousands of our people. And by extension, tens of thousands of our people, because of who we've trained and how we built Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action out of that. So that's who Charlie was he was there, and we crushed it, and we looked at it, and I remember just looking at him, and we were so giddy. It was an hour and a half drive all the way back to our Young Women's Leadership Summit and the summits that we were doing that were there, and it was the first time. And I just remember the excitement of everything. And it feels like, Benny, like it's just been one step after another, one God thing after another along the entire way, where it's just been nothing but, okay, what's the next big project? What's the next big thing that we're going to crush? and that we're going to do to make the movement a better place, that we're going to attract more people, that we can get young men more focused on their families, that we can, turn culture the right direction, that we can win an election. It's just been that every step of the way.
Got this photo I know is very precious to you from what you were talking about. We've put up some of the old clips, but we have some of, I believe this is your first time meeting President Trump. You were there with Charlie. This is at the event.
That's July of 2015. Yep.
And now look what's happened. I mean, it's changed
That was the first Trump rally ever. Again, totally encouraged, lit on fire by Charlie. But, the point is of all that is there's this front-facing Charlie that everybody knows and sees and loves. And then there's this Charlie that was a friend and a mentor and that cared and believed in people. And there weren't people that were elites, right? They weren't people who came from, my parents aren't politicians or donors or anything like that. I had no skills other than being excited about the movement. I had ideas of what we should do, right? Of things that we should fund, things that we should fundraise for, and that we could build. But I was a nobody. I was nothing other than equally as yoked and as excited about saving the country. And again, I don't know if you feel this way or not, but every single person that I can tell that has stuck around as part of our team, that has been close to us, feels that similar way, which it's like, Charlie didn't have any real reason to hitch his wagon to any of us. I knew when I met Charlie, I wanted to hitch my wagon to him because there was no other person in politics that I could trust. And it was very clear very early that he was someone we could do that with, but he had no reason to do that to us. And that's the story of how beautiful things come to be, especially in the movement with Turning Point USA, with Turning Point Action, with all the social media, with the fight that we've had. You and I personally have gone down and fought with some of the bigs. You and I have gone to the offices at Google and talked to the Meta people in the midst of them trying to eliminate everybody. And all of this was centered on everyone working together to see this thing through. And here we are today, and we're missing our friend very dearly.
Someone who, and Tyler, if you'll allow, I want to bring Andrew Colvett on, somebody who has built so much with Charlie and could arguably be the only other person walking the earth today who's known Charlie professionally and worked with him longer. I think both of you have at least a decade under your belts working with Charlie Kirk. Bringing on Andrew Colvett right now, who is a partner with Charlie and who is been there grieving with the family. And we are spending the show, Andrew, eulogizing who Charlie was and what this moment says about the country and the landscape and where we go from here. And I want to just begin, Andrew, with your eulogy for Charlie and what his dynamic martyrdom means to you.
Well, thank you for having me, Benny. And Charlie is a legend. He's an American legend and a total original. And now he belongs to history. And he was better than anything you know, anything you've seen, anything you've read. Tyler and I saw him at his worst. We saw him at his best. We saw him as he was just growing up, and he was better than you can ever imagine. And it's not often you work with somebody that closely, and in the fire in the pit, and you know, where the whole world feels like it's coming down on your shoulders, and you come out the other side thinking that person is a wonderful person. He was loyal to a fault. He was generous to a fault. And there were so many people that candidly probably didn't treat him the way that today they wish they would have.
Correct.
And he never, ever stooped. He never went out of his way, and he would honor people because his vision was bringing together the country, bringing together the coalition. And he said to me something recently that I was reflecting on this morning. He said, anybody can tear down. Anybody can tear down. Anybody can really entertain, but not anybody can build. That takes a statesman and a philosopher and a theologian. And he was contemplating the hierarchy of Greek virtues. And that picture. He was contemplating the hierarchy of Greek virtues, and statesman and philosopher and theologian were at the top of that. And that's what he aspired to be. That's what he was. Yeah. And his faith was so sincere and so honest and so strong. And it was real. It drove everything that we did. The second that anybody on the team stooped to something petty or anything like that, he'd be so quick to call you out and be like, that's not what we're about here. It's not what we're about here. Stay focused on the mission. And you're seeing that from all these people that he interacted with in quiet and in silence. And they're remembering how he would reach out and give them a note of encouragement and just send them a text. Good job on that hit. Good job on that thing. Come see us. Be a part of what we're doing. Want to be a part of what you're doing. And he was a builder, and he knew it, and he focused on it, and he worked at it, and he did it excellently. And I said it earlier this morning, but I'll say it again. The man packed more life into 31 years, and really between 18 and 31 than anybody that I know can do in 100. And I believe that he's sitting by the right hand of the Father right now with Jesus, giving him a big hug.
Yes.
And he has his eternal reward. And he's probably smiling down right now, telling me to stop blubbering like a fool and get it together. And the mission goes on, and buck up, soldier. Got a country to save. Yep. And I tell him, I'd probably bark back and be like, Charlie, listen, give me a moment, and he'd be like, fine, just a moment though. It's time. We got a country to save. And man, I just can tell you the people closest to him loved him the most. And with figures that have, like you said, 30 million social media followers, how rare is that? Most of the time, it's the exact opposite. And he was just a giant of a man, and we're going to miss him.
To your point about Charlie always reaching out and doing so silently without anybody clapping him on the back or without reaching out so that someone would give him credit, we asked a question in the White House press briefing, and the first text I got was from Charlie. And he said, hey, great job. And he sends a photo of the question from the briefing room. And I go, oh, thanks, man. And he goes, I'm watching here at the White House. And I go, oh, let's go. Come meet me. And he's like, no, I'm with Trump. Well, all right, that's actually a pretty great excuse, as to why, Andrew. I know that you both have a very, very busy day ahead of you, and I know that you both have an enormous amount of work to do, and that you both have hard outs. So I want to just give you both the opportunity to answer this simple question. And Andrew, you alluded to it, and it's this. Charlie smiling down on us, saying what? What does Charlie want for us to do next?
He wants to save the country for his kids and for everybody's kids in this show right now. Charlie was not a revolutionary. Charlie was an anti-revolutionary. He was a counter-revolutionary. He believed in the founder's vision of this country, and he does not want to see it, and the rage that we're all feeling, be misdirected to evil. He would want us to double down and to not see this country get ripped apart.
Yes.
But to be brought together. And that sometimes means the evildoers need to be brought to justice. Yes. We need to do it the right way. And, I think Charlie lived by the adage that, like, when we stop talking, bad things happen. And we want more speech, more freedom, less violence. But he would say work twice as hard. Now the real work begins. That was always Charlie's thing. You know, you'd leave yourself exhausted at the finish line. Like after election night, I think we got done at like 4 a.m. West Coast time. And he's like, "Okay, go get about an hour of sleep. I'll see you in another like hour and a half. See you in 90 minutes. Go back to your hotel, get a shower, come back. Now the real work begins." And I'll never forget that. And you know, we got back in the studio the next morning, got right back at it, and then within 48 hours, Charlie was flying to Florida to make sure that the transition went the right way. And the man was tireless, and he would say, "Now's the time to work."
Yeah.
And Benny, I want to say one other thing.
Yes.
When I was getting blown up by all the reporters yesterday, and they were, I mean, I can't even tell you in the moments after, it's all a blur, but it was like, I mean, if I said I got 1,000 phone calls within 20 minutes, I wouldn't be exaggerating. I called a few very specific people, and I said, "You call Benny, he can speak for us." And thanks for being that kind of guy. So
it is one of the honors of my life to have worked alongside someone that I consider a modern prophet in our time, and somebody who clearly had the prophetic hand of God on him. I will have witnessed about as close as you can in this earth the wonders of God watching Charlie, especially from this early stage into what he became. It was nothing short of miraculous.
Yep.
It's why it's such an honor to have both of you on, because we were able to witness it. It'll affect me profoundly for the rest of my days, and I will never end and never quit and never stop in the continuation of the work upon which Charlie has set forth. And so it has been an honor to fight with both of you. I know that you both have incredibly busy days. I want to just tell our audience, build with us. Here is Andrew's account on X. This is at Andrew Colvette. And please flow into, follow, and give power to those who built up Charlie and who were around him as a protection, servicing the armor of God, who assisted in this. Here's Tyler's social media as well. And Tyler, Andrew, I know that you have to go, so please, you won't be rude if you have to drop off. Tyler, I want to give you an opportunity to answer this question before you leave, if you would allow for us.
Yeah, I want to echo exactly what Andrew said, which is I was gonna say Charlie's favorite thing to say. He would say, "Doesn't matter, don't care, work harder." That's just like every single day. It was just, doesn't matter, work harder. Okay, next thing, work harder. We were constantly focused on what we constantly have always been focused on. What's the next? And that's how Turning Point's grown. People are blown away. They're like, how did you guys do this? Is the most common, frequent question from most donors, because donors and contributors and investors and really stakeholders and activists, they look at this and they go, wait, so how did you guys as an organization become the organization that builds the largest events in the conservative movement, while at the same time building the largest field programs and operations, while at the same time building a full campus operation, by building the largest faith-based operation, now by building the largest 501c4, which is the political operation, a PAC. I mean, we're talking about full-bodied things that people have never done. It's because Charlie led this mentality every single day of, shut up and work. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Don't care. Work harder. Doesn't matter. Work harder. And that's really the mentality of what we call grassroots humility at Turning Point, which is putting the movement before yourself. And the other thing that we always would say we would use is this quote, hate to lose. So a lot of people, we talk about this in our interviews, and I probably am actually doing a disservice to ourselves with our hiring process for anyone that watches this. So hopefully it doesn't get clipped. but we would ask people, do you love to win more or do you hate to lose more? And we like people who hate to lose more. And there's a reason for that, is because there's nothing special about loving to win. Everyone loves to win, but you really have to have the experience and the intestinal fortitude to make it through losing and trial and error and failing early and failing often. And that's what separates us from every other political operation that's in America. And I was thinking about this today, like while I couldn't sleep. I was like, I can't remember the last time I was this sad. And truly the last time I was this sad was really 2020, when we took it very personally what the left did to manipulate elections, to manipulate the American voter, to lie about everything up and down. Charlie took that personally. We were sad. I mean, we were not nearly as sad as I am today, but we were sad people, and we took offense to what the left, the radical left, was doing to this country, how they were trying to, basically put us in a corner and, and wave us off. And, the establishment, uniparty, whatever you want to call it, was trying to do the same thing to us for years. And we said, no, we're going to fight harder. We're going to work harder. And that's really the beautiful story of these last, I would say the last half of Charlie's, short but incredibly illustrious career, is the last 5 years has basically been this battle of going through 2020 and learning everything, watching how the left operates, how they do their thing, how they take advantage of people, and knowing what we needed to build, and then putting, what he called clipboard and tennis shoes work, and pounding the pavement and knuckles on doors to get the work done. And that's the thing I admire most about Charlie, is most people would get so soft when they get to a certain point in their career, where they would say, I'm great, I'm taken care of, I'm doing well, I don't need to go out and do all these things that create risk, and where I have to hire and thousands of people and deal with the HR nightmare of having to hire and fire, hundreds if not thousands of people. And no one does that. There's no sane person on this planet that takes on that work unless they have the passion that Charlie led with, to defend this constitutional republic, to center his life around Christ, to be first and foremost a husband, a father, and showing young men. I mean, I know you and I can both say this, and that's why I talked about this early in this stream with you, is even though we're older, I really enjoyed watching Charlie go from essentially a teenager to a dad. And that was such a inspiration to me on the days where I felt like I wasn't a great dad or a great husband, is he was a great example to everyone all the time. And that's going to live on forever. And we can't pray enough for Erica and his two sweet babies who are now without their dad.
I think that and this is I don't know if it's embarrassing. I don't care. It's true. I think that I'm a father because of Charlie, in a way, because I got married and Charlie I got married the weekend of President Trump's victory in 2016. I didn't plan it that way, but it is the way that it worked out. And when you're in this business, you sort of mark, as we have shown here, some of those beautiful personal family photos of you and your infant child meeting President Trump. Here it is. What a sweet photo. I know you're very proud of this as well. You want to talk about someone who was there from day one? That's the photo right there.
That's my daughter Nell's the first Trump baby, first Trump rally.
That's right.
So she loves that too. She tells everyone at school. She's now 11 years old, going on 12, but she's had multiple encounters with the president, but she loves, there she is. She loves holding the title of being the first Trump baby at the first Trump rally. So
would the original photo be around, was it 1 year or less? Was it 1 year old or less? This photo? Not this one on screen, but the one. She
was just over a year. Yeah.
Just a year old. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I, I'm having my fourth child. Again, I get married and Charlie continually hounding me. When are you having kids? When are you starting a family? When are you having kids? When are you starting a family? And then Charlie giving me his condo here in Florida to go search out a new life when we were under attack in Washington, D.C., and I almost lost my family.
Yep.
And he never asked for anything for that. And we stayed for months. We were a pest, a nuisance. And he never even questioned it as we sought a new life and now have a new life. And then lo and behold, I have a fourth child born on the date of President Trump's inauguration, the second time after all of this. Again, I feel like I've been witness to a miracle in Charlie's life. I feel like I've been witness to a prophetic word and hand, and it's been nothing short of miraculous. It's been hard to process, Tyler, but I'm just honored to have you and Andrew on because you've seen it too, and you're some of the very few, perhaps the too few, who have really witnessed it up close from so long away and seen this miracle.
Well, you've been right in the middle of it with us, Benny. And again, I can just say this is that, Charlie believed in Benny Johnson, just like he believed in so many of us. And that's part of the legacy that we have to carry on with doing good work, is because that man was the one who sat around that dining table. I still remember I was telling somebody about this. I was like falling asleep. I was so tired because Charlie, like Andrew said, works you to like basically nothing. But Charlie never gets tired. And I can't remember what event it was, but it was me, you, and Charlie sitting around this table, and he wanted me to meet you. He's like, I just like I met everybody else, or I would go find, it was this constant pull, but he met Benny, was obsessed with the Benny Johnson energy. And I remember I was sitting there, I was like, I'm going to fall asleep because, Charlie would eat stacks of plates of food and, all that, and be talking and like, well, I'll talk all night and pick. And Benny's energy is like, I mean, so gregarious. It's you're just the biggest life of the party everywhere you go. And I was like, we're running this event or whatever it was. I was like, I'm gonna fall asleep right here. But he was so excited about you, and that's what he did all the time. And he's like, we have to make this happen, and we did. And it was from there. It's like we were like a rat pack from that point forward, just like getting stuff done and blowing up Benny media, and everybody in establishment media and leftist media hated it because they hate Benny Johnson for a good reason. And of course, like a rocket ship to the moon has taken off similarly in a almost similar track in the same time period Charlie was taking off. And that's a special bond I think you guys have, that not many have, is that they don't know that, they don't see that, people forget about it, the fights, the battles, the growth, the influence, the doing something from nothing. And you guys have that brotherhood, I think, forever. So
we are brothers, and I view that as in a literal sense and a spiritual sense. Tyler, I know that you have an incredibly packed day today. And you've already answered the question about Charlie's mission. I know that you are so very close with Charlie and his family. And I hope I'm not crossing a line here by just simply asking, what can we do for Erica and these two beautiful children?
Well, that's a good question. We don't know yet. Those decisions haven't been made, but if it's anything like Charlie, when he got married, he wanted people to lean into Turning Point USA as much as possible. I think if Charlie was sitting right here with us right now, he would say, do not worry about me, worry about the kids that we support and that we do. And so anything that anyone can do to support Turning Point USA, and I don't mean that monetarily, I mean that also spiritually, with all of their energy. Benny is a good example of that. Always has been there, has shown up, has always been there for our kids, standing for hours, taking pictures with kids and being there and speaking and putting in the most effort that you possibly can. There are things that you can do at Turning Point USA, no matter what age you are, whether it's at high school, college, or the TPUSA faith level, or join us at Turning Point Action to get involved, become something. consider yesterday that that moment, that turning point for you of thinking about getting involved in your local community or running for office. This country deserves good leaders who are like Charlie Kirk, and Charlie would want 1 million Charlie Kirks to run for office over the course of what would have been his normal lifetime. And if we can do that, then we've lived up to Charlie Kirk's name and his passion and his desire to save this republic. If we don't do that, if we let that fail, then we have done a huge injustice to the martyrdom and the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And so we have to do that work. And so anyone that's listening to this, I hope you'll wake up and say, instead of making excuses for the reasons why you can't do things, find the reasons. Let this be the reason, but find the ability within yourself, no matter where you start. Because I shared this in our stories. Benny and I, when we met Charlie, we were not in any kind of a position to be, head honchos of anything. We were very much willing soldiers that were wanting to go and fight and work and do that work, and we still are, and we need so many more of those.
On your screen right now is the Turning Point Activation website. It is also in the link in every description on this stream across all platforms. This is how you can join the movement if you wish to honor Charlie Kirk's legacy. Then this is the start right here.
Thank you, Benny. I appreciate you having me on today.
Tyler Boyer, who has a very, God help you today, and we will be praying for you. Here's how you can follow Tyler. Please do so immediately and make sure that we carry on the legacy of this great American and Christian martyr, Charlie Kirk. Godspeed, Tyler.
God bless you, Benny.
Ladies and gentlemen, the FBI is asking for help in identifying a person of interest in connection with the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk. Here it is from Salt Lake City, Utah. This has been sent to us directly by the FBI and our contacts inside of the FBI. And so they are urgent. They are asking urgently for assistance in finding this individual. What can we see here in this image? And let's make it as big as possible on screen. We see a white individual who has dark sunglasses. There's a black long sleeve shirt on with what seems to be an American flag, perhaps an eagle on that shirt. It is clearly security camera footage. This individual looks to be wearing a pair of jeans, white tennis shoes, and a dark hat. The FBI says in its post, "We are asking for the public's help in identifying this person of interest. Please call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Digital media tips. There is a link there. Is this the only images that have been sent? This is it? Okay. All right. So here we have it. At the very least, we can see images of who they believe could potentially be behind the shooting. There were 2, as far as we know, there might have been more, false apprehensions yesterday by law enforcement, which makes all of this extremely mysterious to me. It makes me angry. It makes my blood boil. There were individuals who allegedly put their hands up and declared that they were the shooter and said so very loudly and publicly after the shooting. Was that an op? Was that something that was that happened in coordination in order to confuse law enforcement at this time? I don't know. It's mere speculation. But I do know that something truly evil has happened here. Something that clearly was the black hand of a demonic force that we have been talking about and fighting for the existence of this channel and been fighting with you. Producers asking live here, is that all the information that we have thus far? Okay. That's it. So this is the most recent information. We've brought you everything that we can. Again, I've been sent this directly by our contacts inside of the FBI. They are asking for assistance here. Please share this far and wide and give and pour as much assistance into the FBI as possible in order to find this person of interest, they say. A quick thank you very much for that. That is the number right here. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Sources tell Fox News. This is just sent in by our producer. We're getting it. Obviously, we are in a live news environment right now, doing our very best to what is the responsibility that we have right now? Honor Charlie Kirk's legacy, eulogize him and canonize his life, declare him an American martyr. I have tried in my own humble way to do that as much as we possibly can, putting the full force and muscle of everything that we have here behind that. The next object of business is what killed Charlie Kirk. We must search it out, and we must destroy it. And so we have tried to balance that on this program, ladies and gentlemen, and this breaking news from Fox News sent in by our producers may well assist in that mission. Breaking sources tell Fox News that messages were found written on the gun and the ammunition used in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This matches Steven Crowder's reporting that there was transgender and anti-fascist, and what is anti-fascist? Antifa iconography on the bullet casings of the firearm. This also has a bone-chilling effect as it also matches the shooter in Minneapolis, who also wrote and transcribed a number of homicidal, anti-Christian, anti-American, anti-Trump messages on their firearm. We'll put that up, ladies and gentlemen. We happen to be on a short break from the show when that happened. We obviously did pieces on it, but we didn't talk about it on the stream. So I want to show you perhaps a connection. Let's listen to the reporting here from Fox News, and then we will show you what we know. Again, we'll show you the firearms of the Minneapolis transgender mass shooter who shot up and massacred a church full of children. This shooter shooting into a crowd of students and young children. Here's the report.
Federal sources confirmed to Fox News that messages were found written on both the gun and the ammunition here, and those messages are currently being reviewed by investigators. We can't confirm what were in those messages, only that messages were found scrawled on both the gun and the ammunition that investigators have found, and that is under review right now. That gun will be having what's known as an urgent trace by the ATF. That is when they're going to try to find out where the gun was purchased, when it was purchased, what the possible chain of custody was. Keep in mind, the FBI also announcing earlier this morning they found a partial palm print. They also found some footprints, and they do have good surveillance video of the suspect. They just say they're not going to be releasing that video right now. They say those images show that person, whoever it is, jumping off a building and running off into a neighborhood, and that person appears to be college-aged. But again, Harris, multiple federal sources telling Fox News that messages of some kind were found written on both the gun and the ammo, and investigators right now looking at those messages as here we are about 20 hours after this assassination and still no suspect in custody just yet. But it sounds like investigators are hot on this person's trail. That's all we got right now, Harris. We'll update as soon as we have more.
Here is just a small sampling of what the transgender shooter wrote before massacring a church, shooting 17, killing 2 children because they were Christian, targeting children because they were Catholic. You can see, obviously, the gender equality, defend equality with an AR-15 there. Then you can see K. Donald Trump. I don't even want to say it. And there is an enormous preponderance of further messages, anti-God messages, anti-Christian messages. There was true evil scrawled on the weaponry of this individual. And so it seems to match. What does not seem to match is this, that this was not some type of random and sporadic, thank you, producers, thank you. You can put that up. This does not seem to, the thing that this does not match is that it was sporadic and haphazard, clunky and lunky and jackassery, as we've seen from some of these individuals. This seems sophisticated, acute, trained, merciless, and professional. That's the difference. This shooting, the mass shooting in Minneapolis, the shooting of President Trump, all of them were clearly done by extremely mentally ill sociopaths who had very little training and very little sophistication. This operation seems extremely sophisticated. However, it does match, on some degree, these other shootings that we've seen from transgenders. Where is your God? There's what one of the clips said. This, again, not from the Charlie Kirk shooting, from the Minneapolis shooting, which happened just a few days ago. So in case you're wondering if there's a scourge of this violence upon our earth, yes, there is. My producers have sent in one more report from Fox News on the FBI's identification of a person of interest. We're going to play this, ladies and gentlemen, to make sure that at least on this stream, we have as much information as possible out to you. Here we go.
Our show producers are going to work diligently to share that image with our viewers. Harris, back over to you.
Yeah, and we are putting up that image of the person of interest, CV, right now, and we will continue to do that. They are looking for the public's help now. They have obviously tightened their net around this suspect, and the public can be of immediate help just in cutting the timeline. They are going to get this guy. 800 call FBI, and the image that you want to keep, that we'll keep up on the screen as long as possible, is there too. We're also, and I'm kind of saying this to you, but also asking our team wider who's listening to flood our social media with this. All platforms are outnumbered right now as well.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, in our own humble, poor, and inadequate way, we have said goodbye on this program to our friend. And the world will never be the same without him. And it was an honor of my life to be able to witness the miracle, the prophetic word that was Charlie Kirk's motion on this mortal plane. Now he sits at the right hand in paradise, the Father, enthroned. He was a passionate Christian and a believer and an evangelist for Christ Jesus. We share this verse with you today in his honor from John 11:25. Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life, and those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die." We pray for Charlie, Erica, his two beautiful children. Please join me in constant vigilance and constant prayer for them. Everyone who believes in me will never die. The true words of the martyr. Charlie Kirk, American martyr, Christian soldier. We're going to miss you. That's it for now. Please pray for Charlie's family. That's it. In the end, we will win. See you.